Alright, so today's video is going to be making another one of these chicken tractors. I made this one probably 3 months ago now. This is the second group of chickens we have in it. But we have more this time when we need a bigger one and we need another one. This one's 8x8. The new one we're making is going to be 12x12. It's going to be 2 foot tall just like this one. A lot of the things we're going to keep the same that I think worked. So hardware cloth that's 2 feet tall on the wrap sides, a lid that goes up. It's just got chicken wire on the top. The things that we are going to change is on this bigger one. I'm going to have the full 2x4 down here just to help with dragging it along. It's going to be way bigger with 2x12s, 2x4x12s. And then we're also going to do wire all the way around. Here we have some hard OSB on the back and then these sheets of plastic on top. We're not going to do that this time. We're just going to do all wire everywhere. Also on this bigger one, you can imagine this is 8x8, 12x12 is quite a bit bigger. We're going to do 2 lids. So they'll be 4 foot like this one and 12 foot long on either side. Just so you can reach them easier. It was kind of hard to get them out of the back of this when it was time to butcher. Alright, so here's all the materials you're going to need. Everything we have here is either, it's all 2x4s. We got mostly 2x12s because we're going to make a 12 foot by 12 foot one. If you're going to make something smaller, you can go smaller. I'm going to read off all these cuts, but I'll also have them in a list in the description. And if people actually want to see this, maybe I'll draw it up as well. So let's read through here real quick. So we're going to need 6 full 2x4s, 2 that are 3 inches short, and 2 that are 6 inches shorter. So just a full 2x12 with 3 and 6 inches cut off. And then everything else, except for the exception of these, is going to be 2x2s. I'm going to call them that, but they're all just 2x4s cut in half. So you can either buy 2x2s or make them yourself. I think it's easier and you get a straighter piece of lumber if you cut them in half yourself. It's also way cheaper. So for those, we're going to need 6 that are full length. We're going to need 2 that have 3 inches cut off. Then we're going to need 8 that are 23 inches for the risers for the sides. We're going to need 8 for supports on the sides. We have 4 that are 4 feet that are going to be for the lids. And then we have a bunch of angled pieces just as bracing. And you'll see how all this goes together later. We got 8 12-inch, and then we got 12 20-inch. And then we have 4 of these. Around the bottom perimeter, we're going to do full 2x4s, so I have some full 2x4 pieces to go around the bottom as bracing too. We also have some hardware cloth, and then I also have some chicken wire. Hardware cloth is going to be from the side, and chicken wire is going to be from the top. Then we'll move on to the tools that you'll need. Alright, so these are the tools I'm going to use. I'll just put the caveat in there now. I think this is probably all you need. You could just drive the screws without drilling holes. You could drill and drive with just this. But I think if you have all these tools, it makes it a lot easier. So this staple gun is probably the first thing. If this is all you have, I'd buy this next. It was like 30 bucks at Menards, and I've already used a full 5,000 box making the other 3 chicken tractors I've made. So that saved me countless hours of shooting staples out of a manual one. And then this nail gun, really not necessary. It just makes it a little faster. So I'm just using this to tack it together while I put the screws in. These aren't structural. It's not supposed to hold it in place long term. It's just to hold it together while I can drill and screw. And then an impact is just easier to drive screws than a regular drill. I also have a hammer. If for some reason the staple gun isn't driving them in all the way, which sometimes it does because we're kind of at the limit of what this gun can do with 1/2-inch staples, I just use a hammer to finish them in. That's all you should need. I forgot one thing. I ended up using a grinder to cut the wire. You could use any kind of tin snips or whatever you got, but I use a grinder. Alright, so here is one of the sides mocked up. This is one of the shorter sides. So you got your bottom 2x4, this will be the bottom at the end, is just going to butt up against it, and the top piece is going to go on top. That's just the way I designed it. And then here's your little bracket piece. And then one thing I forgot that you'll need as well is a pencil and a tape measure, because these center pieces should be measured 4 foot out. So it'll be 4 foot, 4 foot, and at the end, so they'll be equally spaced. Okay, so how we're going to put these together is first we're going to use a nail gun and just tack them in place. So these aren't structural nails. You probably don't want to leave it like this. But we're going to do this so it's easy to hold together while we drill and screw. So I'm just going to put a couple in all these joints and hold it together. Make sure everything's lined up nice. And then this piece. Okay. So that makes it a lot easier now to hold together while you're screwing. So then I have this bit that's got a countersink in it. You also don't need that, but it makes it look much nicer. So we're just gonna drill for all of the places we need to screw. I usually do, even in these lower joints, I usually do 2 screws, just so it doesn't twist. If you only do 1, it'll twist around it. And then we're gonna drive in screws. And then we'll have to do one for this one as well. We'll just have to go from the top. Alright, so now this end is together. We're basically going to do the same thing all the way down on all 4 frames for the sides. And then we'll move on to making the lids. Alright, so now we're going to make the two lids. This one's just going to be a big rectangle with these little supports. That's it. Okay, now we're done with all our frames, and we need to move on to putting wire on all of them. We'll start with these, but I need to go add one more tool to our collection. I need a grinder or some metal shears, or you need something to cut the chicken wire and hardware cloth. I think a grinder is the easiest. Okay, now we're gonna put wire on. So all we're gonna do is just kind of spread it out, staple it all the way down, and then cut it off at the end. Let's do it. Okay. Alright, so this is how I cut off the wire with the grinder. You could use any kind of snips or anything to cut this off. This is how I do it, and I think it's the easiest. Wear whatever safety gear you think is necessary. There will be sparks and little chunks of wire sometimes. Also be careful when you cut through because the thing is going to spring at you. Make sure you stay out of the way enough. But if you do those things, you should be fine, and that's definitely the fastest way that I've ever seen to do that. Alright, it's day 2. I'm going to pick up where I left off. I just got to finish putting the wire on the rest of these and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, I just wanted to show something here that happens, obviously quite often. When you get to the end of one of your spools of wire, mine are 25 feet, so we're going to end up using some of one I had left and then 2 more. So instead of just cutting it, you could cut it back here at the last joint, or hopefully make it to the end and not use a full piece. But what I've been doing is just use all of it, and then I just put a new brace for this to land on. So I'll put this in here, and then this will be able to bend down and staple on here. Something like that. I'll put more staples in this in a minute. You get the idea. So this will bend down on here. And the next one, I'll just start right here and keep going. And unfortunately, this is all I have left. This little chunk is all I have left. This is the last one. All the other ones are out here. So literally that, like, 6 feet is all I have left. And I'm gonna have to open this brand new spool just to get that 6 feet, but it is what it is. Alright, once you got all your frames made, I just laid them out how they're supposed to be. Make sure you have your longer one on the outside and your shorter ones on the inside, so you end up with a 12 by 12 square at the end. So we'll just lift that one up. Shorter one on the inside. And then, actually I'm going to start a couple of these before and then you're just going to do that on all 4 corners, and then you'll have a box. Then we'll put our little supports in next. Alright, so now we're going to put these corner braces in. I have one 2x4 piece, because the bottom's still full 2x4, and then our normal cut in half pieces for on the top. Pro tip, just in general, is instead of trying to hold something and drive a screw, especially at an angle, just set them in there, and then it makes it a lot easier. So you'll just be able to make sure you get your angle right-ish, and then drive them home. Like, gives you another hand. Makes it a lot easier. I'll do all of them. So to mount the lids, all I'm doing is I'm putting this long 2x12, 2x4x12 all the way across, and then we're going to put the hinges on that. You maybe want to leave like a 1/4 inch gap just so your hinge actually has room to move and it doesn't bind up. Then you can see it opens just fine. Then you're going to do that on both sides. And then the clip after this is going to be putting wire on that middle section, and then really it's ready to use right there. At least they're protected from any kind of predator threat. We're going to end up doing some kind of covering
of some kind, probably a tarp or a piece of plastic or something, just to give them some shade. But other than that, it's done. And then I guess one last thing I might do is just to pull it around a little easier. I'll probably screw in some nice big eyelets and a nice heavy rope. Uh, I'll either pull up my four-wheeler or I might try to drag it, and we'll see how that goes. We're just gonna do it, dragging it around like that for a while. If we need to do some type of wheel situation, I'll let you know.